Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Canto 10, chapter 34, verse 1. So we will repeat what we did yesterday because this is a continuation from the session yesterday. So we will recite the verse again. Shri Shuka Vacha Ekada Deva Yatrayam Gopala Jata Kautuka Anobhi Anadudyuktehi Prayuste Ambikavanam. Translation. Shukadeva Goswami said, one day the cowherd men, eager to take a trip to worship Lord Shiva, traveled by bullock carts to the Ambika forest. Purport. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, the word Ekada here indicates the occasion of Shivratri. He further mentions that Ambikavan is in Gujarat province, near the city of Siddhapura. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur adds that the departure of the cowherd men specifically took place on the 14th lunar day of the dark fortnight of the month of Phalguna. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti also quotes authorities who claim that Ambikavan lies on the banks of the Saraswati river northwest of Mathura. Ambikavan is notable because within it are the deities of Sri Shiva and his wife, goddess Uma. Verse number 2. तत्रस्नात्व सरस्वत्यां देवं पशुपतिं विभुम् आनर्चूर अर्हणे भक्त्या देवीं च नृपते अम्बिकाम्. Translation: O king, after arriving there, they bathed in the Saraswati and devotedly worshipped with various paraphernalia the powerful Lord Pashupati and his consort, goddess Ambika. Verse number 3. गावो हिरण्यं वासांसि मधुमध्वनम् आदृता ब्राह्मणेभ्यो ददुः सर्वे देवो न प्रियतामिति. Translation: The cowherd men gave the brahmanas gifts of cows, gold, clothing, and cooked grains mixed with honey. Then the cowherds prayed, "May the Lord be pleased with us." Verse number 4. Usu Saraswati tire jalam prasya yatavrata rajanim tam mahabhaga nandasunandaka dayaha. Translation: Nanda Sunanda and other greatly fortunate cowherds spent that night on the bank of the Saraswati, strictly observing their vows. They fasted, taking only water. Purport: Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti explains that Sunanda is the younger brother of Nanda Maharaj. So we did this, so we will pray and we will start from where we left yesterday. Okay. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Chakshurvindam Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupadhikamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutabhagatam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamshta Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Savanaragunatanvikam Tam Sajivam Sagritam Savadhutam Advaitasitam Krishna Chaitanya Shri Radha Krishna Padam Savanarita Shri Vishakam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinavadu Vidatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Rami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Yaevacha Paridanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we're continuing from yesterday, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 34, verse number 1 to 4. Okay, so I'll quickly continue with the presentation, and I think it's best if we could do a quick revision of what we did yesterday, so that some devotees might not have come yesterday. So a quick revision, and then we'll go straight into the topic for today, continuing from how many years? 2008. So they're starting with 2,800 years from today, but we'll do a quick revision. So this is about Srimad Bhagavatam, where we have a beautiful description of the 10th canto. 10th canto, chapter 34. Okay, so the context of this discussion is that we are seeing that the Gopas and Gopis of Vraj, they are moving from the Mathura region and they are going northwest. So So that's what is described in this purport. This purport is by the disciples of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. So definitely they have done their work in terms of doing quite a lot of research in terms of this shloka, because we have many previous acharyas who have commented on this verse. So they have taken their commentaries and added points from there, which is really valuable if you see from here. So what's written here, it said that Shukadeva Goswami says that the cowherd men and women, the Gopas and Gopis, they traveled from Vraj and they went to a place named Ambikavan. Now according to what I have researched, this is one of the most important verses. Chapter 34 of 10th Canto, verse number 1 to 4, is probably one of the most important verses in terms of the historical understanding of Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, because here we are able to connect history of what we have found in archaeology, and we are able to connect that with the positioning of Srimad Bhagavatam in terms of its dating. Okay, so here you can see that the direction was, see, Ambikavan is, you see line number 4. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti also quotes authorities who claim that Ambikavan lies on the bank of the Saraswati river, northwest of Mathura. Now this line is very important, and then you see there is another line in stroke number 2, verse number 2. You will see that, O king, after arriving there, they bathed in the Saraswati river and then devotedly worshipped with various paraphernalia the powerful Lord Pashupati and his consort, goddess Ambika. Now these are two very, very important verses. If you understand these, you will see how this is connected to the historical and archaeological findings which we have found so far across India, specifically in the Indus Valley civilization. Now coming back to the session. So yesterday we covered about how the British colonials, they tampered with the scriptures, they gave false translations, they called our Itihas history as mythology, fictional, and in spite of the fact that every religion has a supernatural section, it was only with us, with the Vedic culture, that they said that this is all mythology, and they also promoted that Krishna is from Christ, not the other way around. Okay, and then we saw about okay, we came here then, how literature helps us to locate archaeological sites, how literature is more important than archaeology. Like in Egypt, we have a lot of archaeology, but we don't understand what it really means because we don't have literature to understand it. In other words, literature is more important than archaeology. You might not have archaeology right now, for sufficient archaeology right now for Dwarka, for Kurukshetra and all that. That's fine. You will find it someplace. But we cannot say the other way around. Once the literature is lost, that's the biggest loss. Compared to archaeology.
In the sense, we don't have sufficient what?
Okay, I'll be slow. I think even yesterday I got a comment from my cousin that it's quite fast. Okay, I'll slow it down. Okay, so even we do not have archaeology. Okay, we just have literature. We have Srimad Bhagavatam, we have Mahabharata. That's great. That's great. Right? Someday or the other you will find something. There is always potential for research, mapping, excavations, which we do in our organization. There is always potential to find something in archaeology, someday or the other, as we keep finding newer and newer things in archaeology. But it's not the other way around. You might have archaeology, like in the case of Egypt, we have a lot of pyramids, a lot of huge pyramids, but we have very few literatures to understand what those pyramids mean. Those Shastras are more important than archaeology. Because if you have Shastras, you can trace archaeology and history through the Shastras, not the other way around. The scriptures are very important, so this we covered yesterday. And then we came straight to this topic, origin of the Srimad Bhagavatam Puran. Of course, there is no origin from the spiritual point of view, from the scriptural point of view. But the academic community believes that Srimad Bhagavatam had a certain origin 1,000 years back. We saw this yesterday, how this is being taught in academia, especially when you have devotees joining in new into the spiritual communities. They might have this question that, according to Wikipedia, it's just 1,000, 2,000 years old. And And all of you promote that this is 5,000 years old. What is the evidence? How can you say that it is 5,000 years? So we touched upon this topic, and then we described about how the Vedic scriptures are so vast. They have the Shrutis, the Smritis, and all these different branches. Then we described about how the references to the Puranas are found directly in the Grihya Sutras. Grihya Sutras are the literatures followed by the Grihasthas 5,000 years back. Okay, so we saw here how the Grihasthas of that period, they chanted the Rig, Yaju, Sama, Atharva, and along with the Brahmana, Kalpa, Gatha, Narasamsi, Itihasa, and Purana. So this clearly shows that the concept of Purana is very ancient, it's not new. And then we came about this, we touched this Bopadeva. Right? Generally it's promoted that Bopadeva wrote Srimad Bhagavatam. That was the trend during Srila Prabhupada's time. Many used to ask him, tell him that, oh, Bhagavatam is written by Bopadeva, what is the proof? That it was written by Vyasadeva. So Prabhupada used to often counter this, saying that it's not Bopadeva, it is Vyasadeva. So based on this, the dating of Srimad Bhagavatam was given to be, if you remember, during Srila Prabhupada's time, the dating of Srimad Bhagavatam was academic dating, I mean to say. You remember we had this discussion yesterday? The academicians believe that Srimad Bhagavatam is...
1,400?
No, that's the last part of it.
700 years.
Yeah, correct. Because Bopadeva is just 700 years ago. So Srimad Bhagavatam must be 800 to 900 years old. That was the trend in the 1970s and 1980s. Okay, then gradually it changed because we started finding evidences from the Sri Vaishnavas. The Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya contained evidences of shlokas quoted from Srimad Bhagavatam. And then the most fascinating thing was Al-Biruni. We saw about Al-Biruni, if you remember. Al-Biruni is a 10th century traveler from Afghanistan who gave verses from the Srimad Bhagavatam. And the dating of Srimad Bhagavatam in academia is generally based on Al-Biruni. Can you imagine Al-Biruni is required to date the Srimad Bhagavatam? Al-Biruni, who is a 10th century traveler, his writings are given as the source. You know, what we are taught that Al-Biruni has referred to Srimad Bhagavatam 1000 years back, and therefore Srimad Bhagavatam must be 100 or 200 years before Al-Biruni. So that was the logic which was given. And then we saw about how there is this 8th century reference of Gaudapada. Gaudapada was the guru of Shankaracharya, and he, in his writings, has referred to the Srimad Bhagavatam, and therefore Srimad Bhagavatam must be a little older than the same logic what they give us. So then we saw this temple, if you remember. What we saw in this temple? Anyone? Anyone who wants to try?
Yeah, avatars.
Sorry?
22.
Tirupati.
Okay,
22 pictures. 22
22? What?
avatars.
yeah. The avatars were there, 22 of them? Was it?
22 incarnations, avatars of the Lord, as per Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 4. So we have, the 22 forms of the Lord described in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 4, and the order is as follows. Purusha incarnation, Brahma, 4 Kumaras, Narada, Narnarayan, Kapila, Dattatreya, Yagya, Rishabha, Ritu, Matsya, Kurma, Dhanvantri, Mohini, Narsimha, Vamana, Parshuram, Vyasa, Ramachandra, Balaram, Krishna, Buddha, and Kalki. And the most fascinating thing was the exact order, the exact chronology, the exact sequence of this avatars has been carved in this temple from Kanchipuram, dating back to
1400.
correct 7th century CE. 7th century CE, and this temple is a fascinating evidence that 1400 years back people know about the Srimad Bhagavatam, because no other Purana, be it Vishnu Puran, Vayu Puran or Agni Puran, no other Puran contains this exact order, exact sequence. Other Puranas have also described about the forms of the Lord, but they have not given these exact sequences. Only the Srimad Bhagavatam, and the number 22 is also again, is specifically from the Srimad Bhagavatam. So based on that, how can we date? So these are different photos of those avatars carved in that temple. So based on this, we arrived at a conclusion that the dating of Srimad Bhagavatam should be based on their logic, not on our logic. Based on their logic, which should be 1000. No, that's the temple state. 1400. Little older. Their logic is little older. The solution should be little older, not too older. Little older. So the logic is that if it's 1400 years old, then it should be little older, which is 1600 or 1700. So then we saw about this evidence of do not read the Bhagavatam. Of course, we should read the Bhagavatam. But there is a shloka, there is a verse from the Jaina sources which says, in a book, Nandi Sutra, it says, don't read these following books if you want to remain a devout Jain. If you want to remain a devout Jain, don't read these literatures. Mahabharata, Ramayana, Purana Bhagavatam. Purana Bhagavatam, it is Bhagavad Purana, Purana Bhagavatam, Mathura Vritti, Sankhya Karika, etc. So this literature is around 1800 years old. So based on the same logic, Srimad Bhagavatam must be little older. This possibly 2000 years. Okay, same their own logic. Okay. Then we saw about the Tamil Sangam literatures. Tamil Sangam literatures contain beautiful descriptions of the Viraha Bhakti, devotion and separation from the Lord. And these literatures are dated to 2300 years ago. So based on the same logic, Srimad Bhagavatam must be little older, 2500 years ago. Then we saw about the mysterious cave paintings of Kashi. We saw this shloka from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, chapter 65, where Krishna and Paundraka are having a fight. And Krishna is climbing a chariot, and he's coming from Dwarka, and he is holding his chakra in his hand and firing it on Paundraka and chopping his heads off. So this shloka is found exclusively in Srimad Bhagavatam, that he went on a chariot. You don't find this anywhere in any other literature. It's just in Srimad Bhagavatam that Krishna went on a chariot and he took the Sudarshan Chakra in his hand and he killed him, Paundraka. So again, if this, okay, what was the date of this cave painting? If you remember, what was the date? 2800 years. So Srimad Bhagavatam must be little older. So 3000 years ago. Okay, so we saw that, and then we described about how we locate sites for excavation. Now what exactly is the time?
817.
17.
Yeah.
817. Okay. So we have around 35 minutes to cover the rest of the topic. I think that should be sufficient because we are going to go deeper into the archaeological evidences. Now, if you want to understand this part, the first part was pretty easy to understand. This is going to be quite a ride into archaeology, and we are going to go deeper into how Krishna's artifacts are found 4000 years back and evidences of Bhagavatam 5000 years back. This is going to be a very interesting ride. So you need to be listen with rapt attention to understand this. Okay, so what happens in history?
Can you give a little bit bigger, please, on the screen? Should it be possible or not?
Okay, sure. Sometimes it kind of crashes when you connect the projector. It doesn't also, I keep it like that. I hope if it crashes, then I'll come back to the normal view. Okay, so locating sites for excavation. So what we do in research is we locate sites for excavation. You know what is excavation? You identify some site and then we dig and we bring out. It might be an ancient temple or an ancient artifact or any such thing. So for locating sites, we depend a lot on the scriptures, the Shastras, and we also depend to some extent on inscriptions. You know what is an inscription? An inscription, if you have an ancient wall or an ancient stone, we have data carved in that, so we depend on that also. So to locate a site for excavation, we connect literature and then based on the literary data, what is written, based on the data which we have in the written form, we go and try to map a site, okay, an archaeological site. So that's how archaeology works. And in geography, there is two things which you need to understand. Now, you all know what is geography, I don't need to explain that. But in geography, there are two things which is critical to understand. One is political geography and another is physical geography. Political geography is the kingdom, the cities, the bases, the regions. This is political geography. And then we have a physical geography. The mountains, the rivers, oceans, deserts, flora and fauna. And the great thing about Srimad Bhagavatam and also the Mahabharata is we have fascinating historical detail about the various geographies within Bharat. And also some geographies all the way up till West Asia. I mean, the geography is that vast. This is given in our scriptures. So, the thing is that this political geography and physical geography is very critical to understand the history of a particular place. Who were living there, what was their culture, what they used to do, and so on. So this is about the geography, a brief understanding of it. This again is a complete 1 hour session of the geography of the Mahabharata. So this is about it. So this is a geographical map of the Mahabharata period. If you watch it carefully, okay, I'll come out because I can zoom. So you can see here, this is Shurasen. Shurasen is the kingdom of, any guesses? Shurasen kingdom. Any guesses whose kingdom it was? Have you heard this name?
Yes.
Shurasen. Who was Shurasen? Any idea? I mean, it's very straightforward and very important personality. Related to Krishna. Shurasen was the grandfather of Krishna. So there was a kingdom in Mathura. It was headquartered at Mathura, and the king was Maharaj Shurasen. And all the different people who used to rule in Mathura were also called as the Shurasenas. Shaurasena. They were known as the Shurasena kingdom. And the followers of the tribe of the Shurasena, or the Vamsha of the Shurasena people. Then we have the Panchali, Draupadi is from here. And then we have the Matsya kingdom. The Pandavas used to live 1 year in exile, in hiding, and that was here, Matsya. Then we have the Kuru Rashtra, that the Pandavas and Kauravas were ruling. And then we have Nepal. The word Nepal comes from Mahabharata, if you know. The word Nepal comes from Mahabharata. And Nishada, Abhira. Abhira is a very famous tribe in India even today. Many people have a surname in India by the name of Ahir. Ahir comes from Abhira. Then we have Sauvira, Sindhu. The Sindhi people, they trace their history from here. And Dwarka, the city of Dwarka, the kingdom of Dwarka is here. The Yadavas used to rule from here. So like that, many kingdoms. Mahabharata beautifully describes the geography of Bharat. Okay, so now if you watch this shloka very carefully, again, read this shloka very carefully again. It says, the cowherd men eager to take a trip to worship Lord Shiva traveled by bullock carts to the Ambika forest. Now the question is, where was this Ambika forest? That's a natural question. Where was this Ambika forest? Now different acharyas have given different opinions. Srila Deva Goswami, he writes that Srila Deva Goswami says Ambika is in Gujarat province near the city of Siddhapura. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says it lies on the bank of the Saraswati river. Lies on the bank of the Saraswati river, northwest of Mathura. Now that's the critical word here which you have to remember, which is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that Ambika lies on the bank of the Saraswati river, northwest of Mathura. Now if you see carefully in this map, this is Mathura, the Shurasen kingdom. Okay? Clear? This Mathura is here. How many of you been to Mathura? Many of you would have been to Mathura, right? Mathura, Vrindavan. So this is Mathura here. And from Mathura, when you go northwest, this is northwest, you can see follow my cursor here. When you go northwest of Mathura, you find these rivers. And you know what this river is? This river is Saraswati. Okay? What is described by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, if you try to map it from an archaeological point of view, this was Saraswati. Now the question comes, was there really a Saraswati river existing during the times of Mahabharata, during the times of Krishna? Was there really a river called Saraswati?
Yes.
Any opinion, any thoughts you would like to share?
Yes.
Yes. What says
It has disappeared. This is a river who has disappeared.
Correct. The river got disappeared. Okay. But until the 1990s and 2000s, the common opinion was Saraswati river never existed in academia. You know what was taught to us in schools and everywhere that Saraswati river never existed. Saraswati river is not real. Saraswati river is a imaginary river, it's a fictional river, a mythological river. That was the context. People did not believe. Because Ganga is described in our scriptures, we find Ganga. Yamuna is described, we find Yamuna. But Saraswati is described, we don't find Saraswati today. So the understanding was, oh, Saraswati should be imaginary, Saraswati should be mythological and so on. What happened in the 1990s, there was a big change. Archaeological research started in a very systematic manner by the Indian Space Research Organization. Have you heard of this organization? ISRO, Indian Space Research Organization. It is India's premier, is one of the world's top space research organizations. So they started doing serious work on Saraswati River to check if the Saraswati River really existed or not. I'll show you some photos of what they have worked on. So this is the paleo channel map, what we call in archaeology, we call it as a paleo channel map. Okay, let me show a different picture to give you a clear idea. Okay, this is a better picture. So what ISRO did is, ISRO did a research on the paleo channels of the dried up Saraswati river. Now what is a paleo channel? A paleo channel is the pathway taken by a river in the past. But now it is not flowing in that line. Maybe it has got dried up, maybe it has changed its direction. Okay, so this is the paleo channel. As you can see here, these dots you see here, this is the paleo channel of the Saraswati river which was flowing 5,000 years back. Okay, when ISRO did its research, it found that in what the scriptures say is 100% factual, that there was a Saraswati river which used to flow. And it started from here, as you can see here, it started from the Himalayas, it came all the way to Kurukshetra. Okay, I'll show you a better map here. See, it started from the Himalayas and it came to the Kurukshetra. This point you see is Kurukshetra. This point you see is Kurukshetra. It came all the way from the Himalayas, flowed nearby Kurukshetra, and Kurukshetra was such a beautiful town, beautiful city, that it is covered on two sides by two rivers, Saraswati and Drishadmati. And these two rivers merged a little ahead and together they became the singular Saraswati after that. As you can see, this is the merging point of the Saraswati river. And after this it's just Saraswati after that. So what happened in Bharat is we see a lot of desert lands here. You know, Rajasthan. So, you know, this entire region in Saraswati of Rajasthan and parts of modern day Pakistan is fully desert. It's fully desert. You know why? Because when the Saraswati river dried up, this entire region converted into a desert. Now, the thing is, why did the Saraswati river dry up? Okay. According to the scriptures, there was a conflict between Saraswati and Ganga. They cursed each other, and Saraswati said that, Ganga Devi said that, let your existence on planet Earth be finished. Let you not flow on planet Earth. So from that point onwards, that's a scriptural point of view, that why, the spiritual point of view as to why Saraswati died. And we also have an archaeological point of view. What ISRO says, and many other geologists and archaeologists say, that it was because of the tectonic plate shifting. Again, this is all scientific understanding of why it happened. So what they say is that around 4,000 years back, the movement of the rivers of the Saraswati river was blocked because of the movement of a certain hill, and Saraswati, which was flowing in this direction as you can see here, stopped flowing in this direction and it merged to the Yamuna. and Yamuna became more powerful and more important 4,000 years back. Okay, so people around is.
Where's the Yamuna here?
Yamuna is here, this line. I'm not marked it here, I can show you in this map. Here, this is Yamuna, the blue line here. And this is Saraswati Channel, right next to it. It's just around 100, within 100 kilometers.
Oh,
Okay. Okay, so Saraswati River dried up. It is not that Saraswati River dried up. Technically speaking, it changed this pathway and now it became Yamuna from the scientific point of view. So what happened is, the entire civilization which existed along the banks of the Saraswati has suddenly no access to water. 4,000 years back. Okay? And now the interesting thing is the dating of Saraswati River, the dating of when the river got dried up. Now when ISRO did its research and a comprehensive analysis, they found that 4,000 years back the river had dried up. 4,000 years back, Saraswati stopped flowing in this channel, which is where it was flowing. 4,000 years back. And you know the interesting thing is, a civilization came to end at that point of time. One civilization which existed in that region came to a sudden end. And that civilization was famously known as the Indus Valley Civilization. Have you heard of this civilization? Very famous in academia. India had a civilization called as Indus Valley Civilization. And from the archaeological point of view, Indus Valley Civilization had 3 periods, you see. Of course, this is much ancient than this. Okay, there is much ancient than this. But there is also a much earlier Harappan period which goes back to around 6000 BC. Right? Or even 7000 BC. So this is a layer which I have not added here, I am just telling it to you by words. So we had multiple layers in the archaeological record. So what happened is, at around 4000 years back, what we see here is the late Harappan period, late Indus Valley period. There is a sudden abrupt end of a civilization. Sudden end. Suddenly people started vacating that place. So what is Indus Valley civilization? Let us quickly cover that. So this is Indus Valley civilization. Now in the Vedic culture we had cities, we had towns and we had villages. Okay, we had cities, we had towns, we had villages and we have forests and farmlands and so on. In the Vedic culture, the cities which existed during the Vedic culture, during the Vedic period, during the Mahabharata period, most of them are still cities. For example, Indraprastha, the place where the Pandavas used to rule, today it is called as? Any guesses? Delhi. 1000 years back, even before 1000 years, it was known as Indraprastha. We have an inscription found right in the city of Delhi, which is called as Narayana stone pillar inscription, 1000 years back. It gives the geography of Delhi. It says this province is called as Delhi, it is near to Haryana, and this province is also known by the name of Indrapat, which is basically Indraprastha. And that exact location is also mentioned in the Buddhist literature. The Buddhists also refer to the city of Indrapat. And Greek traveler Ptolemy refers to the city of Indraprastha. He says Indopat, the city of Indopat. So that city was very famous. So what we find in the archaeological record in India and also in Pakistan, which is also part of India, what we find is that the archaeological record which we have found is mostly of towns and villages. We have not found cities, much of cities. Why? Because cities are still inhabited. People are living on top. We keep living on top of those ancient cities. How in the world are we going to find something? Who is ready to move? Nobody is going to move. Like if you see Mathura, when you go to the... How many of you been to Mathura? If you remember, there is a palace, Kanska Tila. There is a famous place called Kanska Tila. That's the palace of Kansa. And if you watch carefully the topography, the surface, you start feeling that you're going on top of a hill. It's not a hill. It's not a natural hill. It's an archaeological site. Because people are living on top, generations after generations. So it has become like a mountain. It is not a mountain. It is an archaeological site. Now ask those people to vacate that place. We want to do excavations. Who will move? Nobody's going to move. So the point is, India, most of these cities of the Mahabharata period or the Vedic period are still cities, and people are living as a continuous civilization. The remarkable thing about India is it is a continuous civilization for thousands and thousands of years on the same site. On the same site, people will live on the exact same location for thousands of years. They will destroy that place, they will break down the house, and they will spread the rubbles. They will spread the rubbles around. They will bring new bricks, new cement, again construct on top of that place. So you're not going to find much of city evidences. I'm being straight about it. It's very difficult to find evidences of cities of the Mahabharata period. Now what we have found in the Indus Valley civilization is evidences of villages and towns. Now this is one such town called as Mohenjo-daro, Harappa. These are very famous cities. And we have like that more than 1,000 sites, 1,000 cities. These are some photos of these famous towns. And these towns also have evidences of the Vedic culture being followed there very prominently. They are not different from the Vedic culture. What we have found in Indus Valley civilization is clear archaeological evidences of Vedic culture being practiced in the Indus Valley civilization. Now I need to correct myself when I am saying Indus Valley civilization. It is not Indus Valley civilization. It should be called as Sindhu Saraswati civilization. Why so? Because two prominent rivers, Sindhu and Saraswati. But in general, academia doesn't like to quote Saraswati because for them it's a mythical river. If you accept Saraswati, then you have to accept the scriptures also. So they prefer to call it as Indus Valley civilization. But ideally it should be called as Sindhu Saraswati civilization. Why Sindhu Saraswati? Because both rivers were very important. Both Sindhu and Saraswati were important. And in fact, Saraswati was more important because more than 60% of the sites which are found along the banks of this civilization was along the banks of the dried up Saraswati river, not on Sindhu. 60% and in fact more than 60% of the sites which were found, archaeological sites, are along the banks of the dried up Saraswati river and not along the banks of the Indus or Sindhu. So this clearly goes to show that Saraswati was that important during the Mahabharata period and the Vedic period. Okay, now coming to one question. Why do you think that people used to live on the banks of a river? Why was it so important to stay on the banks of a river?
Water.
Sorry?
Needs water.
You need water. And why do you need water? I mean, it looks like a very primeval question, but you need to understand it more deeper.
For agriculture.
So you can sit here this side, little here. Thank you.
For agriculture. For agriculture.
Okay, agriculture and also sanitation.
Drinking.
Drinking, great. Sanitation.
He said that you have to live to a place where there's a doctor, a rich
Correct.
man.
I was about to say that. Thank you so much. I was about to say this verse. I was expecting that you all give answers and then I'll quote this verse to probably quote it. Thank you so much. So Chanakya Pandit says, do not stay in a place where there is no access to water, no water basically. Don't stay there. So it was commonly followed. Nobody would want to stay in a place where there is no access to water. I mean, we didn't have these big. There was no necessity to make these big technological arrangements to bring water right in the middle of a desert and create a city out of nowhere. Now this is a very beautiful place. You have good access to water and all that. But generally, you see many times you see in especially in the what do you call as Middle Eastern countries. Middle Eastern countries, right? So they have this entire civilizations created, cities created out of nowhere in the middle of desert. So that was not the culture in the ancient times. People used to always live on the banks of the rivers because water was very important. Now coming again to our discussion from Srimad Bhagavatam. So we are going now deeper. So we have around 10 to 15 minutes. So quickly go deeper into the topic in hand, which is the connection of Srimad Bhagavatam with the archaeological record. You see, this is Shurasen kingdom, Vraj, Vrindavan, Mathura is all here. And when you go northwest, you find this dried up Saraswati river. Now, just for a moment, consider this river has been scientifically proven to have dried up at 4,000 years ago. I'm repeating again, very important point. This river is scientifically proven to have dried up 4,000 years ago. And if any literature, any book speaks about a river flowing, saying that this river was flowing, Saraswati river was flowing. So how old should be that literature which speaks of a river which dried up 4,000 years back?
Older than 4,000 years.
It doesn't say, it doesn't say the river is getting dried up, the river has dried up, we don't see it. The moment if Srimad Bhagavatam says that Saraswati has dried up, if Srimad Bhagavatam says that Saraswati has dried up, definitely it cannot be more than 4,000 years old. It has to be after that. But Srimad Bhagavatam is very specific that Saraswati river was flowing, and in that flowing Saraswati river, Krishna and all the Gopas, Gopis, they took bathed in that river. And archaeologically proven that if you want to go deeper into this, we have a separate seminar also, but if you want to personally study and understand, there is a portal from ISRO, Indian Space Research Organization. They have a separate portal called as the Saraswati Geo Portal. You can just Google it up. Saraswati Portal of ISRO. ISRO, ISRO. Saraswati Portal, ISRO. You have this complete research of what was the channel of Saraswati, what were the different cities, mainly towns and villages on the banks of Saraswati. Yeah.
The point also that they, with NASA photographs, they also trace back that river. They could
Correct.
Isn't you going to speak about it? NASA we can speak, but my research is mostly on ISRO. ISRO, Indian Space Research Organization.
Okay.
It's also equivalent and not that powerful like NASA, but it's very famous in India. It's probably the third or fourth most biggest space organization in the world. So they have done this research. Indian Space Research Organization, that's controlled by the government of India, directly under the Prime Minister.
So they can trace back.
They have traced. So there is a portal, if you can check, you will find the Saraswati channel. Okay, so now, here comes the most interesting part. Archaeologically speaking, people of the civilization, people of the Sindhu Saraswati civilization had a religion to follow, had a culture to follow. You know what they worshipped? I'll show you some artifacts. So this was their culture, their civilization. They used to practice yoga, they used to follow different asanas and all that. They also had evidences of yajna. You know what is yajna? They used to follow yajna 5,000 years back. This is proven in the Indus Valley civilization. There is also evidence of, these are different lingas found in the Indus Valley civilization, Sindhu Saraswati civilization. Clearly goes to show that Lord Shiva was prominent in that civilization, and these are different artifacts. And you see this is Shivlinga here, and you see carefully, this is, who is this? Any guesses? Yeah, it's obviously Shiva, but who exactly? There is a form of Shiva who is very famous.
Rudra?
No.
Nandishwara?
His name is Pashupati. You are able to bridge the gap now. I'm going to go deeper. Are you starting to bridge the gap? Remember what shloka we saw? It says that, O king, after arriving there, they bathed in the Saraswati and devotedly worshipped with various paraphernalia the powerful Lord Pashupati and his consort goddess Ambika. Pashupati. Okay, see the shloka also clearly uses the word Devam Pashupati Vibhum.
Arjuna was going to get his weapon, I think, Pashupati.
That's, that's little different discussion. Okay. So we'll first cover this up. So Pashupati seals. So we have evidences of Pashupati seals. Now what is a seal? If you have a coin, see this is a square shaped seal. It's like a coin, but it was not used for currency. It was primarily used for the purpose of religion. They were kept, like, you have this small, we have in Mosa, we have some small, square shaped gifts of deities and maybe the Buddhas. So these are square shaped seals found in the Indus Valley civilization. And you know what? These seals date from 4,000 years all the way till 5,500 years. Pashupati seals. Okay, and the earliest description of Pashupati is found in the Vedas themselves. Directly in the Veda, it is mentioned about Pashupati. How Pashupati was important, how Pashupati worship was very prominent. Just like Indra worship was very prominent during the times of Krishna, and Krishna had to stop it. So don't do this, do Govardhan. We all know this, right? So similarly, Pashupati worship was very prominent during the times of Krishna. In fact, it's mentioned in the Vedas. And this is the most fascinating thing, that archaeology has proven the existence of Pashupati 5000 years back. And this is the Pashupati seal found in the Indus Valley civilization. And you can see carefully, see, this is the head of Pashu, and he is a Pati, Pashupati. He is the lord of the Pashus. Okay, and along with that, we also have found evidences of a goddess. Right next to the Shivlinga, right next to the Pashupati, we also have evidences of a goddess. She was very prominent in the Indus Valley civilization, which the archaeologists like to call her as Mother Goddess. Archaeologists like to call her as Mother Goddess. In Hindi, if you literally translate, it becomes Devi Ma, or basically Parvati. So Parvati worship is found right next to the worship of Pashupati. This is archaeology. I am speaking purely archaeology right here. Archaeologically speaking, this is Pashupati and his wife. And what we find here in this shloka, O king, after arriving there, they bathed in the Saraswati and devotedly worshipped various paraphernalia, the powerful Lord Pashupati and his consort goddess Ambika. So we have Pashupati, seals, we have Linga, and we have also evidences of Pashupati seals. So clearly goes to show that what is described in Srimad Bhagavatam is exactly precise. Can you get this? These are found along the banks of both Sindhu and Saraswati. Along the banks of Saraswati, seals of Pashupati have been found. Along the banks of Saraswati, Shivalinga has been found. Along the banks of Saraswati, we have found evidences of Ambika, Mother Goddess. So what is found, what is written in the scriptures, now we find a lower dating, which is 4000 years. It cannot be after 4000 years because Saraswati is described. Any literature which describes of a flowing Saraswati river clearly is not after 4000 years, it's before 4000, because Saraswati had dried up 4000 years ago. So it has to be more ancient compared to. So we have evidences of Pashupati, we have evidences of a female goddess, and we have evidences of Linga. So this clearly goes to show that people during that time were worshipping Pashupati along the banks of Saraswati, which is exactly confirmed by Srimad Bhagavatam. Did you get it? Krishna and the Gopas and Gopis, Nanda Maharaj, Sunanda, they are all going to banks of Saraswati and worshipping Pashupati, because that tradition was very famous during that time. And is it historically provable? Is it a fact? Is it scientific? Definitely it is scientific. These are original artifacts. These are photos of original artifacts found in the Indus Valley civilization. Now, why this is fascinating? This shloka is only found in Srimad Bhagavatam. Can you imagine that? This migration happened from Braj. They went for a trip. Like many times we go for yatras. We go to Netherlands for Kirtan Mela or the King's Day. So we have some festival and we come back. So similarly, the Gopas and Gopis are going for a festival, for a celebration, for Shivratri. And they're celebrating and they're coming back. And they're going on the banks of Saraswati and they're worshipping Pashupati. And what does archaeology say? Archaeology gives the exact same thing. Archaeology says, as we see here, on the banks of Saraswati we have found evidences of Lord Pashupati. So Srimad Bhagavatam is not describing some fake stories and some imaginary things. These are real hard facts. These are real historical things which Srimad Bhagavatam is speaking. Now, coming to some further interesting findings. How much time do we have? I think we are running out of time. Sorry? 10 minutes including question answers. I thought I would complete it today, but I guess we have around 15-20 minutes of content more, which I will have to skip.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll quickly, I'll do one thing, I'll cover it in a few minutes and try to give you the crux of it. So this is evidences of the Vedic Brahmanical culture. Like those who are doing Pujari service, you see that they tie this shawl like this. The right side is open. You see this is evidence of that found in the Indus Valley civilization. And evidence of swastika. Now swastika is a must in the Vedic culture. Almost every house used to have swastika. Very auspicious symbol. We can also have it in our home also. But somehow in Europe it has a wrong, connected to Hitler and all that. But swastika in its essence has two swastikas. One is Daiva swastika and Asura swastika. Both are opposite, the way they are carved. So many times we take the Asura swastika and consider that. So we have to understand the difference between the two swastikas. So these are evidences of yajna found in the Vedic culture, in the Indus Valley civilization. People used to follow rituals of yajna, and this is evidence of kamandalu. Kamandalu, the rishis and munis used to carry kamandalu filled with water. So that evidence has been found in Indus Valley civilization. And recently there are a lot of exciting things coming up. This is evidence of chariots going back to 4,000 years, weapons going back to 4,500 or even 5,000 years. And the great thing is that, there is one topic which I want to cover, which is the era system. How is the dating of Srimad Bhagavatam and Mahabharata and Bhagavad Gita happens is through a corroborative. Corroborative means you have multiple subjects like archaeology, astronomy, inscriptions and this and that. So we combine all together and come to one conclusion. And the date of recitation of Bhagavad Gita is precisely dated to 3101 BCE, which is around 5126 years ago. Now we cannot keep repeating for hundreds of years that 5,000 years before Mahabharata happened, 5,000 years before Mahabharata happened, because it's going to change. Now it's already 5,100 plus. Soon it will become 5,200 and 5,300. So the exact year, we have to remember the exact year because that's our identity. The identity is 3101 BC if you want to take the Christian calendar or the Common Era calendar. Otherwise, 5,126 years ago, that's the year when Bhagavad Gita was spoken by Krishna. So we have done a comprehensive analysis in our book, Mahabharata Myth of History. So in this book we have, there is a section on Srimad Bhagavatam also. We have shown how Srimad Bhagavatam is authentic history. It has evidences from archaeology, deities, Vedic literature, foreign evidences, Tamil sources, Buddhist literature, ancient coins of Krishna found all across the world, including in Afghanistan, inscriptions across the world, Jain literatures, Mahabharata kingdoms, petroglyphs, ancient cave paintings. If you remember, we showed you some ancient cave paintings of Jagannath going back to 2,400 years old. So a lot of these interesting artifacts have been covered. We have done a comprehensive research, and the exciting thing is we are prolonging this research a little further, and this is if you want to have a look, this is the world's most ancient Jagannath Baldev Subhadra cave painting. Krishna with chakra, Balram with his hull, and Subhadra is carrying her umbrella. So this is again found in Madhya Pradesh. So a lot of these exciting things are happening in our team, and we have started space archaeology, which is a very, very exciting field. We use satellite data and drone data to see what's below. Right? We use satellite data and drone data to study what's below, and we are able to see exactly how deep, if there is any civilization, any artifact, any weapons or any chariots, we are able to see that. And once we see, we collaborate with the Government of India and we do our research. And soon we are going to get permissions to do also excavations. So we have done a lot of progress in the last 5 to 6 years, and with Krishna's mercy we are expecting that our organization becomes successful in bringing out how old is the Vedic culture, how great was the Vedic culture, about how great was Bharat. So that work is going on, and soon we'll find, Krishna willing, we'll find more evidences, more artifacts of Mahabharata and Krishna. Okay, so I conclude here. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So, questions?
I heard that the Indian government is not really supporting the excavation and the archaeology in relation to Dwarka, for example, that they, you know, they prefer to keep it covered. Is that true?
I'll tell you why. The thing is that Dwarka is quite a sensitive topic. If somebody is doing sensitive topic, if Dwarka research has to happen, it has to give results. If the government is doubtful that if we do a research, if we do a mapping, and we do not find any evidence, that's going to be really dangerous for them. Why? Because people will question, oh, you spent so much money, public money, and you did this, where is the evidence? So the government is, it's not that they are against it, they are very favorable, but they are also cautious, they don't want to lose opportunity to come back again to power. What they think is better delay, unless we are absolutely sure we are going to find it. Because we know the internal, how it works, right? Because you could not have expected any government to work on Ayodhya the way this government did. Ayodhya was never possible. Now we have a beautiful temple there. If any of you been to Ayodhya by any chance? It's coming up very beautifully, the way the temple, right in the Ram Janambhoomi. So this has been possible with this government. And no government is perfect. They all have their problems and issues and all that. So there is some hope with this government. I would not say I am very hopeful, but some hope. If there is something which can happen, it will be through them. While the other party, we are not sure how much they will support. So yeah.
There was a speaking about the Aryan invasion
Yeah.
theory.
Yeah.
So how many people in India still believe
A lot of
this story?
A lot of people, especially more in the tribal areas and in the southern part of the country. A lot of people believe that.
Okay, thank you.
I wanted to ask you about the seals in the Indus-Saraswati civilization. I mean, I know that the script has not been deciphered yet,
yes.
so how can we really be sure, that this is just an image, and how can we be sure that this is Pashupati and that these are lingas and so on? I mean, are there any other evidence that corroborate that this is really so? Because, we can read in...
You know what, I really missed evidences of Krishna in Indus Valley civilization. We were supposed to cover it, but I guess this is world's most ancient Krishna evidence. So through that I show how it is going. So now coming to Pashupati. See, according to scriptures, Pashupati is described sitting in a yogic posture. Okay? And that's a very important question which Prabhuji asked. I think this is also a great opportunity for me to open up on discussions of Krishna, evidences of Krishna. The world's most ancient artifact of Krishna, we're going to discuss. And thank you for that question, because otherwise I skipped it by mistake. So this is Pashupati, and you can see here Pashupati is sitting in a yogic posture, and he has head of Pashu. And the fascinating thing about Pashupati is that it matches exactly well with the description given in the Vedas and other scriptures of how he is sitting in meditation, and he is surrounded by the Pashus. He is Lord of the Pashus. The Vedas often describe that he is the Lord. See, all these different animals are carved here. You have a tiger, you have an elephant, you have rhinoceros, and so on. Lord of the Pashus. Okay, so that's one thing. And his head, the description, the way the head has been shown, is also exactly in line with the scriptures. Point number 2. And point number 3 is that Pashupati had always, many times the findings of Pashupati is with an arch. We don't have here. But in South India, in South Indian temples, how many of you have been to South Indian temples? If you see, there is always an arch surrounding the deity. Have you seen? There is like a metallic thing they keep on top of the deities. That's like an aura or effulgence or, So that is specifically for persons who are of importance, divine persons. You won't do that for ordinary humans. That kind of arch. Another point. Another point is that you see here, very interestingly, this yogic posture is not possible for an ordinary human being. Okay, see this posture. This is like, how do we call it? Like a slab kind of thing, and he's sitting exactly like, you know, the toes are right right below his anus. So like this, exactly like this. Okay, very difficult for an ordinary human being to stand in this posture. Just imagine. Another. So next thing is you see Pashupati's hands. They have this interesting spikes. And this is not common in Indus Valley civilization. This is not common. This is specifically for those who have some kind of power. This is being carved to differentiate those with power. I mean, these are divine beings. So that's what the carver is trying to inform us. The person who carved is trying to inform us that do not consider this person to be ordinary human. He is not ordinary human. See his hands, it's with spikes. Okay? And spikes indicates that he has, you know, he has powers. He can create magic, he can do extraordinary things. He is not a normal human being. And why I say that? Because you see, there are other findings also in the Indus Valley civilization where humans are shown and they do not have spikes in their hands. See this. Forget about this middle one. See this one. They don't have spikes. And I will show you hundreds of such human carvings in the Indus Valley civilization which do not have spikes in their hands. So Pashupati had a spike in his hand and also had an arch, and he was worshipped and found right next to the linga and the mother goddess. The mother goddess clearly proven that she was worshipped. Okay, because the way she was found in a raised position, and there were artifacts of worship found right next to her. Okay, so mother goddess Pashupati, and this one is most fascinating. Now, because you raised this question, I am able to explain about this slide, which I totally missed because I had to complete the session faster. So this is a very, very interesting find from the Indus Valley civilization, going back to 4,200 years old. In this you find two people, two men or two humans are seen to hold a tree. Can you see this? There's a tree in this person's hand and there's a tree in this person's hand.
Yes.
Okay? And it seems as if they are holding the tree or maybe falling behind with this tree. Falling behind with this tree. And there is a person in between. His face is damaged. We can't see his face. But his hands are clearly visible. And he's pushing these two. It's like as if either he's pushing them or he's blessing them. These are the two interpretations. Apart from that, we don't have any other interpretations. What these extended hands mean, which touch these two. And the hand is extending right to their heads. As you can see here, this is extending to their head and to his head. And these hands have spikes in their spikes. Apart from Pashupati, who was very important and proven, Pashupati is proven to have been worshipped in the Indus Valley civilization. Apart from Pashupati, the next person who had spikes in his hand, it's one and only this person.
Vishnu.
We count it. So, this person had spikes in his hand and he's pushing these two people away or probably blessing them. Right? And they are like holding the trees back and probably they are impacted by it, or maybe the tree is too heavy, or maybe they are converting into humans from the form of a tree. See, interestingly, the tree is shown front and human is shown behind. So according to many archaeologists as well, they believe that this is the world's most ancient artifact related to Krishna. This is a soapstone tablet excavated from the archaeological site at Mohenjo-daro, Larkana district, Sindh province, Pakistan, modern day Pakistan, which of course is India only.
Or Damodar River?
Sorry?
Damodar River?
Yes.
Or do you think that this is the Damodar River?
I'm not thinking, I'm proposing it. You can also give your thoughts on this. So this is likely to be the world's most ancient divine person who is pushing two humans and they're holding trees. There is no other explanation of who this divine person, quote unquote divine person could be. Because Pashupati had this divinity And apart from that, this is the person who has a divinity in Indus Valley civilization. Only two persons. One Pashupati and second one is this person. So we have again a seminar in depth where we cover that how this person is most likely to be Krishna. We have a seminar, but we don't have a time to cover it today. Then we go deeper into the artifacts found in Indus Valley civilization, how it's connected to Vedas and Mahabharata, and how this person could actually be most likely to be Krishna. We do analysis of that. But if you want to detail and understand it, it's there in my book. I have done like 4-page research on, 4-page presentation on how this is Krishna. Okay? So any other questions or comments? One last before we conclude. I expected that we'll complete in 2 sessions. We have somehow squeezed and completed in 2 sessions. The history of Srimad Bhagavatam. Probably if somebody of you want to comment, how did you like it after? Yes.
Did you say on one of the previous things you were showing, there were lions and dinosaurs?
I didn't speak of it.
Rhinoceros.
Oh,
Rhinoceros.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. Any of you have any comments or how did you find today's session for the last 2 days? Any comments? Because this is the first time I'm doing in Europe.
She wants to say something.
Yeah.
Just about this site from Kamsa, the site of Kamsa, there was also like excavation of...
No. 90% of India is still not excavated. Huge possibility.
In my country, when they start digging, then it's, they find ancient things.
Which your country?
I come from Bulgaria.
Bulgaria is a hotbed. Bulgaria has a lot of artifacts.
But then they keep it usually. You see, the city center, they don't build on it. They just build around it.
Yeah. So the thing is that when you study history before 2000 years, you will find the pagan religion was active throughout Europe. And when you carefully study that, which we will cover today evening in our session, Worldwide Vedic Heritage, you study that it's all connected to Bharat, to the Vedic culture.
But one day to this in India also just keep the ancient, or is it not possible, and then build around it, whatever is excavated.
Yeah, see, somehow in India the situation has never been so conducive for history and archaeology. Now slowly starting to change. Here we have laws that you cannot build over an ancient site. Every 2-3 kilometers you have an ancient site. Every 2-3 kilometers you have an ancient site. Then literally, don't touch any place. It's very challenging. We are trying our best in our organization there should be at least some kind of permissions which people should take before working on an ancient site, so that at least we preserve as much as possible. Because once it's lost, it's lost. You will never find it. It's gone. So a lot of work. At least 70,000 sites. 70,000 sites are still not excavated. A lot of work. Yeah.
I remember that some years ago there was one Vedic astrologer who was going back in the situation of the position of the stars. And then he came back 5,000 years ago and was describing what happened in the Kurukshetra time.
Yes. That's basically, we have covered some topic related to that in my research also. So the thing is, according to astronomy, yes, we can get dating of Mahabharata. Yes. Because there are 2 ways for astronomical dating. One is that you use scriptural formulas. You see, Bhaskaracharya, Aryabhatta, Brahmagupta, Lalacharya, many of these astronomers of ancient India, they have given formulas, Sanskrit formulas, based on which you can use that and get an exact date of Mahabharata. We can. And another way is that you put that in a software, astronomical software, and then you get the date. Both has its pros and cons, because for Sanskrit there is the difficulty of understanding and all that, fixing and all that. And in the softwares, the difficulty is its accuracy is under question. Accuracy is in question. So there are pros and cons in each approaches, but the stable method is epigraphy, study of inscriptions. That's a stable method. Archaeology is a stable method. And of course the tradition. Tradition is a stable method. By these we can date, and astronomy can aid in dating. dating which is already done through these different disciplines, astronomy will further help in substantiating that date. That's how it works. Okay, so shall we conclude? Okay, so today evening we have session on worldwide Vedic heritage, pre-Common Era history of Europe. I mean, going back 2000 years before 2000 years, what was here? What was the culture? How it's connected to Bharat? It's going to be a fascinating ride going back to ancient times. So please don't miss it. And my stay here in Belgium is concluding soon. So if you want to attend that session, please do attend and don't miss it. Okay? Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare